Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with PV Sindhu, the reigning world champion, the silver medalist in the 2016 Rio Olympics of the world's most beautiful game. No, it's not football, it's badminton. And Sindhu is the queen of the court as she smashes and grabs and lunges for every drop off the shuttlecock, a game of complete and utter strength and beauty. Sindhu, welcome to The Print.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're all very excited that you are preparing for the Olympics 6 weeks from now. Tell us a little bit about your preparations, because the Olympics have been delayed for a full year. So tell us how you're feeling and what you're doing right now.
Well, preparations wise, yes, everything is going on good. And also, I think there's just 1.5 months now, and really looking forward, really excited. Of course, back then we were a bit sad because, it got postponed, but I think we're coming closer and things are getting better. And I hope things will be fine by then. And I'm excited because this is going to be my second Olympics, and it's going to be different because first time when I played the Rio, it was like I didn't know how it was, how the atmosphere and the environment and everything. But now since I know how it is, so it's going to be something different, and expectations and responsibilities are going to be there. So yeah, I need to just give my best.
When you say what does that mean? What is that?
But it's like, see, when you go for a big tournament, like Olympics is the biggest tournament. So, when you go there, you might see different athletes who's doing really well in their own sport. So when you see them, you'll be like, okay, they've done really great for their country, and they've got so many medals for their country. So when you see your role model or your inspiration or anybody, or you're inspired by someone, and when you look up to them, it's going to be like, okay, you know what, we all are competing at in the Olympics. So when you go to the Olympics, it's you have that feeling where you get these goosebumps, like you are representing the country. And it is not just which comes every year. It's like once in 4 years, and this time it's like after 5 years. So it's really excited. So I meant to say that back then in Rio, it was like I was like a newcomer. Nobody knew that, Sindhu is going to be there and she's going to be the face. But now, since everybody know, and I got medal at Rio, everybody's going to look, and expectations are going to be a lot more like okay, this time we are expecting a medal from Sindhu, a better medal from Sindhu. So
a different color of the medal.
Exactly. So for me, it's just one step at a time, one match at a time. And since I know how is it going to be, so I have to just be full focused, because everybody is going to be in their top class form, and everybody is going to be prepared. So yeah, even I should be prepared and just give my 100%.
But are you nervous? I mean, like you said, it's 4 years. This is your second Olympics. Okay, not 4, but 5 years. But with all these dreams and expectations and aspirations of 1.3 billion people, and we're all going to be watching really, really closely, are you nervous?
Well, I'm not nervous, but it's always going to be there. So you can't have that pressure with you, thinking that, oh yeah, people are expecting a lot more. But definitely people might show their love and support, and people want that from their point of view. But for me, I have to just be focused on myself and go out there and win for the country. So it's a proud moment for me and also for the whole country.
But talk to me a little bit about the pressure. You're a star athlete, right? You're an elite athlete. India's best known athlete. I mean, forget about cricket, no one cares. But India's top athlete. How do you cope with this pressure of being that?
Well, it's always nice to be there in the limelight. Obviously, who will not like it? So the pressure is always going to be there, but you can't carry that pressure when you're going into a match. It will be there because you have to perform for yourself. You want to win for yourself. You want to win for the people, for the country. So I'm not saying
you put it at the back of your head. How do you cope with this pressure?
Well, definitely there'll be a thinking back of my head. But when I go into a match, when I enter the court, I think that is all gone. It's just the game, just the court, and just the match and the opponent is important. And that is how I go into the court, because you take that pressure and you play, and that would add on extra pressure while playing a match. Because you would be thinking that, oh yeah, they want me to win. You would be thinking for yourself that, oh yeah, I want to win for myself. So that added pressure would be a lot more, and you might not just give your best. Rather than that, just let it go and just focus on your match, and then that should be fine. So that is how I prepare myself and go into the court.
No, that's really fantastic because, the big question that we're all talking about these days is about Naomi Osaka, right? The tennis champion who quit the French Open because she says she's been battling depression. What do
Yes.
you say about that?
Well, definitely, I think, as an athlete, we have to respect their personal views and their personal things. I understand because every athlete has a, different mindset and they think differently. Every individual thinks differently. But also at the same time, being rude to the press. And I don't think she was rude, but, she meant to tell them that, I am not in a right position to speak to them. So she said she would come back and speak. But especially talking about her, I think we need to respect and we need to communicate in such a way that, we should understand each other that, oh yes, these are the priorities, these are not right now, we are not in the moment to talk, or the depression is such that sometimes you just go blank, you don't know what to do. And
Have you ever faced something like that? Like you go blank?
no, I have never faced it like that. I have never faced that. No.
But like you said, do you think that she could have communicated better, Naomi Osaka?
Well, she's told that she won't be talking to the press, but then later on she gave an article also. She put up on her Instagram saying that it's not that I'm rude to the media, but I'll take some time, and when the time is good, I'll come and speak to them. So that's what she meant. But maybe she was in not a right position to speak and talk and say. So in that way, I think from our point of view, we also need to understand and give her that personal space. And yeah.
If you're an athlete at that level, then you must understand that there will be pressure, isn't it?
Yes, there will be pressure. Yes, I completely agree with you. Also, at the same time, we might be having different media commitments where, we have to go and speak to the media, because for us in badminton, when as soon as the match is over, no matter what, win or lose, we need to go and talk to the press. Like in tennis, sometimes they talk before the match, sometimes they talk after the match. So it depends on each individual and each person, how they react and how they give their views. So for me, I think, yes, media is always there to ask and, ask the questions and know what is going on with them. It's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's not wrong. But also at the same time, as a person and an athlete, we also need to understand and respect each individual is what I meant.
So mental health and depression. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think it's a part of every athlete's growing up, or, and especially like a star athlete?
Yes, definitely. Mental health is very, very important in everybody's life, not only athlete but everybody's life. Because when we talk about the athlete, sometimes we might not know what's going on, or sometimes we might lose matches where we have to win, and we get so upset and we get so depressed that we don't know what to do next and what's going to happen next. So we go into that zone where you just don't want to do anything, or you just alone by your side and just be to yourself. But also at the same time, you need to think and understand that you need to improve, where you have to stay positive and be strong and think for yourself that no, I'm going to come out and come back much more stronger. So there are many ways, not one or two ways. You can just do a bit of meditation. That's what I do. I do a bit of meditation, and just to calm yourself. And when you go blank, you just have to just let go and think, okay, fine, that what is over, just focus on the next point or what is next. And for example, in an individual as well, mental strength, and sometimes obviously, for example, in this pandemic, a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of people don't know what to do and what is next, and a lot of people are losing their jobs. So for them, I just want to say that and yes, we were all in the lockdown, and still we are.
Yeah.
So back then people were like, we don't know what's happening. It's around the world, and everything has come to a standstill. And that is when we have to just try and not think about that. Just be busy doing different things and spend time with your family, and just let go and just stay positive all the time, and just do a bit of meditation. So that is how you just don't think about that and don't feel sad and don't get depressed.
So you would recommend to Naomi
Stay
Osaka?
positive. Yeah. Sorry?
No, I was just saying, I said, no, this thing about being positive is a really good thing. Sometimes, I mean, better than most people that it's easier said than done, right? But what you said about meditation, would you recommend meditation to Naomi Osaka?
I will definitely. I'm sure she would definitely know that, and well, it's good for her. I mean, I think she would be doing. I have no idea, but she's a top athlete, and she would know much better. So definitely, it helps, because it helps me, and there are many ways, as I said. to just calm yourself and, build up that mental strength.
But this, I mean, I'm sorry to keep at it, but it's something that fascinates me, right? That how a top athlete can cope with, this sort of world attention and the expectations of yourself. And, you said a little bit earlier that you feel alone. Sometimes you feel completely down. Have you been through that?
Well, see, winning and losing is part and parcel of life. So you just can't expect that when you lose, everything is over. It's the end of the world. It's not like that, because see, basically you need to enjoy sport. That is very important. I know at times for athletes, it's that match or that tournament might be really, really important. But when you lose, you might, think that I should have won that, or, what happened to me. But maybe it is just for a day or two. But I think after that, you need to come back and just be fine and just go back to practice and learn from your mistakes. So you can't just stay by yourself and think, oh, I lost that and it is end of the world, because life is not over, right? Life has to go on, and you might have up and downs in life, but it's not that it's just over with this. So even me, when I lose a couple of matches, I might feel sad. I felt sad a lot of times. So I used to just go back,
Like
be
when?
sad.
When
Why?
did you feel sad?
Well, back then, a lot of tournaments, not one or two, because every tournament I lose, I get sad or I get upset because we want to win all the time, which can't happen. So I just go back and think about it, see my matches, rectify my mistakes. And the next day, again, it's normal. Go back to training, come back, and then practice, learn, and go and play the matches again. So that's all. It is a process. You need to overcome that. It's not just over with that.
Like the final that you played against Carolina Marin, who is a friend of yours in the 2016 Rio Olympics. I mean, that remains, it's 5 years ago, but perhaps, I'm so much older than you that it remains etched in my memory. And I think we all felt so bad that you didn't win, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you gave everything to the game. How did you feel after that?
Well, definitely I wanted to win that gold, but I was a bit sad when I lost in the finals. But, in a game, one should win and one should lose. You need to accept that. So,
Is that an acceptance? Is that a bottom line that one should win and one should lose?
obviously, see, when you're playing the finals, it's like one should win and one should lose. Both of them can't win. Both of them can't lose. So you need to accept loss as well, because sometimes if you win, it is really good. But if you lose, if you make some mistakes, you can't do anything about it. You can't change it. I can't go back and change, that okay, I should win the goal. I can't play that match again. It's over. So I was sad for some time, but on the podium I was like, it's okay, because I've never expected, a silver medal, but I have got what I've not expected. So I was happy with that. And when I came back and everybody was really happy, but after some time I'm like, I didn't lose the gold, but I won silver. So I had that, mindset, and I stayed positive and I kept going. And yeah, my life has changed after that.
How has it changed?
Well, it has changed a lot, mentally, physically, and game wise, on court, off court. Yeah,
In what
everything.
way? Give me an example.
Well, the when it comes to game, obviously, when I got that silver medal, obviously, when I came back to India, people who didn't know me knew me, and awards and rewards and advertising, like on the billboards, my photos, my pictures everywhere. So it was like I was on cloud nine, and I was like, okay, I've never expected that. And the reception that I've got is like was fantastic, because when I landed in India, so from the airport until almost, I think, 30 kilometers, there were like so many people, like from the youngsters until like all the people were standing and holding my banners. So I mean, the love and support that they showed me really touched, because one of, I mean, from different city, one of a laborer was, he gave me his 1 month salary. Like, imagine the love and support that they showed me. Like, every single day they were watching my match. And even now, I actually get goosebumps when I talk about it, because it's really touching. And, people like these are really, it's like a motivation and support to me to go to the next level. They are expecting and they're wanting me to win very, very badly. So, you know, like, why can't I win? I will work hard and I will win for myself and win for the country, and everybody is going to be happy. So that way, I think my game has really improved. And since then, it's been 5 years now. Step by step, it's been improving. And obviously, my parents' support has always been there. And obviously, sponsors and the government.
No boyfriend, Sindhu?
Sorry?
No
No,
boyfriend?
no, no.
Stay that way. We don't, at least until the Olympics, stay that way. Then
Yeah.
but just to come back, for example, I was just thinking while you were talking just now, like Deepika Padukone, she's of course a star now in Bollywood, but she's also been a badminton player, right?
Yes, yes.
Of national level. And the fact that she talks about her depression, she talks about how she goes through these really, really bad phases. I mean, do you think that perhaps talking about it could also help?
Definitely, yes. Sometimes few people just keep in their mind and it builds up a lot more and they feel really lonely inside. But it's better rather you talk it and let go. So, you might feel better. So a lot of people are doing that, not only Deepika, but I've seen a lot of people. So it's always better to let go things and just feel free and talk to people out there and make them understand and educate them, because few people don't know what it is at times.
No,
A
but
lot
I'm
of
wondering if somebody like Deepika talks about it now, Naomi Osaka is also talking about it. But when you're at that level, you should, if you don't want to be at that, you have to expect the pressure that the world will talk about you, right? I mean,
yes.
like the French Open guys, they came out and said something that was quite critical of her.
Yeah.
Now, perhaps she should expect that.
Yeah, so from the organizers, it was completely different, because from their point of view, they would want her to come and speak to the people, because a lot of people might be waiting for her. But all of a sudden, she was like, okay, I didn't want to speak. I don't want to speak to the media. So it was like, that's what I said. The communication was a bit here and there. That's why things went here and there. But if you communicate and let them know and tell them like how she feels, then it would have been a different feel. That's what I thought, because when Osaka spoke and the organizers were really a bit upset with what she said, because all of a sudden she said I won't talk, and they said no, it's not going to happen, and she just withdrew. She just like left and she went off. So I mean, what she's feeling, how she's feeling, we can't say, because she might be feeling really bad and she would have been in a stage where she's really depressed. But people out there might have not understood the way she was feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So you tell me about your competition. For example, Carolina Marin, somebody who you lost to, but obviously I was watching your Twitter feed, and you guys seem to be good friends, right?
Yeah.
You had a message for her when she just got injured.
Yeah, it was obviously, it's sad for any athlete, just couple of months away, from Olympics and getting injured and being out of Olympics is a really bad phase. So yeah, she's a really good friend of mine, and I just sent a message saying that you recover soon and hoping to compete against her soon. So hopefully she will be fine and recover soon.
How are you friends with, when you say she's a really good friend of yours, but she's also your,
Com-
like topmost rival, right? So how do you become friends with a rival?
Well, it's always on court, I feel, because on court, yes, you need to be aggressive and you need to compete against that player. That rivalry should be there. It's good for the for the sport. The competition is good for the sport. The rivalry is good for the sport. But I think the rivalry is not off court. It is always on court, and it is always good to have friends off court, in the badminton circuit, because I'm also from different country, because we understand what they are, how they are off court. On court, yes, we are aggressive, we are really completely a different person, but of course she's very friendly and a sweet girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about, say inside the country, Saina Nehwal, again, a national level player. She has won several medals internationally as well. But there is a rivalry between the two of you.
Yes, there is definitely, of course, because it's not that when you play with the same country there's no rivalry. It's not like that. The rivalry is always there. As I said, it's good for the sport. So yeah, apart from that, off court, I don't really talk to her much. So it's just like hi and bye types because, she train differently and I train differently. So we don't meet each other mostly.
What does that mean, train differently?
Well, I'm playing in Gachibowli Stadium right now. So it's like, it has like the international standards. So, because, I need to get used to the conditions out there because Japan, Tokyo is going to be a big stadium. And obviously, when I went there, I've seen the stadium and I feel that, Gachibowli has the same international standards. And obviously, I've taken permission from the government in Sai and Badminton Association, and they've given permission. So I've been training there since, after Thailand. Yes, I've been training there since then. So, yeah, I just train there and no one else comes. So, yeah, I don't meet her much.
But you both had the same coach once upon a time, right? Pullela Gopichand.
Yeah, even then we had different timings because, he used to make a play and then sometimes he used to make me play. So she used to come in the morning or I used to finish my session in the morning or after that she comes. So, yeah, it was different.
So you don't have that, you have a rivalry on court, but you don't have a friendship off court, basically.
Not really. It's just like hi and bye. That's it.
Okay. But tell me, what Gopichand taught you and what your current coach, the South Korean coach, Mr. Park, how is that different?
Well, it's every coach has a different perspective on each athlete and player. So obviously, Gopi sir back then was different, and now Mr. Park, he's my coach right now. So he's a bit different because when it comes to Park, he's more of like he. Obviously, all the coaches need to understand player, and the bond between a coach and a player needs to be really strong because he needs to understand what's going on in player's mind. Because when you play a match, he needs to sit out and he needs to understand what's going on, and that way, when we're really losing points, he need to motivate us and support us. I know even he would be having the pressure for himself, but he need to keep that pressure aside and just focus on a player, on his player, like what is she doing, what needs to be done, or what mistake needs to be done. So as I said, yes, both the coaches are completely different because every coach thinks differently. So for example, Gopi sir taught me a different technique, and now Park teaches me something else. So it's always
tell me what. When you say different technique in what?
Like it can be anything like stroke wise, skill wise. So there are different skills in badminton. So it can be different skills. I mean, technique wise, like you play like this with this opponent. You play like differently with other opponents. So what Gopi sir says and what Park says, sometimes it's different. So it is always good to grab everything and use them on court. That is good for you because as much as you grab, as an athlete, it's always good to play whenever you need. So you shouldn't play all the strokes at once, but you always have to remember what they teach you. At the same time, you need to use them on court accordingly.
Right. So because Park is South Korean, I'm just wondering, like the Chinese badminton players, right? Is their stroke play, is their technique different from people in Europe, like with Carolina Marin?
Well, every player has a different technique. For example, Carolina is very aggressive player, and Taizu is a very tricky player. Her skill is really good, and Ratchanok or Chen Yufi is a stroke player. So every player has a different technique and different game style. So you can't expect that these players are good or these players. You can't differentiate. But I think right now, from top 1 to 10 in the women's circuit in the rankings, I think top 1 to 10 are of same standards.
No, so I'm just wondering, say the Chinese players, we all say that earlier during the Soviet Union, perhaps Russia now, and especially China, we talk about how sports is like a machine, like they're churning out players, not just in badminton, but in every sport. And in the last Olympics, for example, China got the maximum number of golds, right?
So it's not like, obviously, yes, I agree to that. And also before it was only Chinese. Yeah. But I think right now that has completely changed because everybody is changing the game style and everybody is reading their game. And we are able to beat, the Chinese players. It's not like we are not able to beat or, the other players. It's not like other players are getting really tough with the Chinese players. No. So it just depends on that particular day who plays well and give their best as a winner is what I feel. And
you're able to beat the Chinese.
Sorry?
I said you're able to beat the Chinese.
Yes, of course we have. we have. And back then in 2012, I played with a lot of Chinese players: Wang Yihan, Wang Xixian, Li Zuri. So it was a really good competition. Yes, they are also strong and good, but it doesn't mean that now different countries are also coming there, and we are actually equal to them. So yeah.
I just want to talk to you a little bit about, say, women athletes at home in India, for example. Sania Mirza, she's 34 years old, but she's going to play in the Olympics. And
Olympics,
she's
yes.
carrying her, and she's bringing her 2-year-old son with her. I mean,
Yeah.
that is quite sweet. Okay, she got permission, special permission to go and train in go abroad and take her. But how do you look at this? Is that, young women,
Well, it's really good, women, that shows that women are really strong, and women can compete and do anything and play sport. Because initially back then, they used to say that, oh yeah, women are not supposed to come out, women are not supposed to work, women are not supposed to play sport. But now I think it's completely different. And now if you see, when you actually told, Sanya is having a baby, and she's carrying him and going for tournaments and training abroad. And of course, Serena Williams, who has a baby, and she's also playing really good, and she's in like the top. So it's really nice to look up to those women and people, because that shows that they are very, very strong mentally and physically.
Do you guys talk to each other, you and Sanya?
Yes, yes, we are really good friends. Yeah.
Wow, and you're all Hyderabadis. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
it? But do
Recently, I
I
have not met her, but yeah, otherwise, really good friends.
There's something about the soil in Hyderabad, I think, that produces tennis and badminton players like, I don't know, again, like Jwala Gutta, right? I mean, of course, she's a generation ahead before you.
Yeah.
She just got married, and, best wishes to her if she's watching this show. But I was really taken aback that on social media, she's being attacked so badly, because calling her chinky, Chinese, half Corona. I mean, that's pretty awful stuff.
Yeah, well, she is a great player, and she's a really good friend of mine, because, even though she's senior to me, I've been playing tournaments with her, and she really takes care. And we've gone out for dinners and all that stuff. So it's really nice, playing with a senior and team. So she's a really good friend of mine. And yeah, I mean, it's bad that they shouldn't say that, because they need to understand what she's done for the country, and which is really great. And personal stuff is her personal stuff. What she wants to say, it's her say. Because every person has has that courage to speak, and it's their own choice. So we are nobody to comment about that. And people, a lot of people said that, but I would say that we are nobody to comment, because she is a strong woman as far as I know, because she is really, really very strong as a woman. Because a lot of people look up to her, and the way she is, or the way she answers, or the way she says and plays on court is, yeah, she's very bold.
And unacceptable for the way, the things that people say about her. In fact, she's been trending a couple of days ago about some really terrible stuff. And again, then she spoke out. I think then she said, "I'm an atheist," something about, but the fact that badminton players, well, not just badminton players, but women players are targeted like this on social media, I think it's absolutely unacceptable.
Well, yeah, I mean, they shouldn't, because they need to understand and know that, women are strong and we can do anything. And it's also like, she spoke back.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not speak back, because they might be thinking, oh, what is this? And they step back, they take a step back. But I think as you said, Jwala, she's taken a step forward and she spoke. So, which is always good. Like, you need to speak out what you feel, and, and let the people know.
You think you should speak out what you feel? Because some would say that, listen, you're a badminton player, you should just shut up and play badminton. What is this business of social media?
No, nothing like that. See, every person has their own views and own choices in life. So you can't stop them, right? At some point of time, they will also speak back. So it's not like you should just play badminton, because you are also a human being. And
But you don't say very much. You don't say very much on social media.
Well, that's my nature. Yeah, that's my nature.
What is your nature, that you want to just be focused on what you're doing?
Yeah, because right now I am focusing and playing, and I have a couple of tournaments coming up. So I just want to be focused and just keep my focus on badminton.
So the fact that you're a professional badminton player, Sindhu, according to the Forbes list, I think 2018 and 2019 both your worth is sort of 8.5 million and then $5.5 million. So this large money that you see coming, does it kind of startle you that ye kaise ho gaya?
Well, at times I'm like, okay, I'm in the Forbes list. A lot of people ask me that because it was obviously surprising for me too. And a lot of people asked me, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy about it, but I don't actually sit and count the money. My parents take care of that. So it's nice. I mean, being there in the limelight, and it's always good. Who would not want to be, at the top in the limelight?
No, and it's great that it's badminton, and with people like Sania Mirza, it's tennis. It's not just cricket. I mean, it's all the way
Yeah,
through the game.
it's like, I'm also one of them in the, top athletes. That's really a good feeling because, it's very rare. It's not all the time. And, comparing me with the top players, like also in the tennis and, different sports, it's really nice to hear that.
Okay, so now Sindhu, you have your eye on the shuttlecock.
Yes, eye on the shuttle and really focusing and hoping to give my best at the Olympics. Well, it's not going to be easy, but
Why not? Carolina Marin isn't there.
no, because there are also different players who are stronger. Because, as for example, Taizu, Ratchanok, Okuhara, and Yamaguchi. So there, as I said, yeah, the top 1 to 10 players are of same standards. You can't take it easy, even though if one player is out. So yeah, it's there's no question for that because each and every point is important, and it's not just that you think about the finals, but every match, every point is very, very important. So you need to be focused like every single time, not that you just miss that. No, because it's obviously Olympics and you need to give your best.
And one last and quick question on the state of badminton. By now there should have been like 100 Sindhus, playing badminton, but there aren't any.
Yeah, well, right now I'm seeing a lot of junior players. So I would just want to say that, yeah, for me, especially, I've been getting the government support and the sports authority support, and obviously BI Badminton Association has been really very supportive. From my perspective, yes, there are a couple of youngsters who are doing really well, but they need to nurture them really, really good. And they need to start from the grassroots level, and they need to understand the hard work and what is behind that champion mindset, because it's not so easy becoming a champion. Because even for me, coming to that level is fine, but maintaining that level isn't easy. So to the people out there, I just want to say that
What do you do when you say you have to maintain that champion level? What do you need to do?
So you can't expect, if you get a Olympic silver medal or a world championship medal, you can't expect that, oh yeah, I've achieved everything and it's over. You have to just feel that, oh yes, it is just the beginning and there's more way to go on. And what I've worked till now is different, but what I should work from now on and work smartly is very important, because every player knows your game. It's not, you shouldn't play the same type of game. You need to have strategies. You need to think differently. You need to go with plan B. So these are all included, to become a champion. So it's not just a couple of months of hard work. It's definitely years of hard work. And, they might be ups and downs, but it's not that when you lose, everything is over. Some might get success very soon. Some might take time to get success, but you need to always be patient, be there, keep working hard. Even though you fall 10 times, you need to still keep working hard, and you will get a success some point of time.
And you need to eat, breathe, sleep, dream badminton.
Yes, of course, you need to enjoy sport. That is very important, because it's not that your parents tell you to play sport and your parents tell you to play badminton and you just can't play badminton, and not for their sake. It needs to be from inside. You need to have that passion towards the sport, and definitely you would enjoy that and come up in life. And it's not that when a champion is made from one stadium or one academy, you can't get your children, or you can't get your son or daughter and put it in that academy and think they'll become a champion. No, it's not like that, because every individual have every different skill and technique. As I said, they can't expect that if we put our daughter or son in that particular stadium or academy, they will become a champion. They need to go behind them, see what they're doing, and they need to understand every step and, accordingly work hard and come up. It's not easy, it's not easy.
But you love it.
Yes, of course. Yes. I've loved it and I've been loving it. That's why I'm here. And yeah, of course, parent support. That's what everybody needs. Parent support is very, very important. So I would want all the parents to, support their children in whichever sport they want to. And yeah.
Well, Sindhu, on my behalf and on behalf of the print, of course, we wish you all the best in your preparations over the next few weeks and in the Olympics.
Thank you.
May you win and may you do the best you can, and all the best from all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was nice speaking to you.
Thank you for your time. All the best.
Thanks.